It's really important to become part of the Kickstarter community. One of the reasons projects fail if people don't connect. So, you build connections by investing in other projects. So I've invested in 20 some odd projects before doing the Kickstarter, which is part of the learning, but it's also part of the connection.
Welcome to Your Intended Message, the perfect place for leaders and promising professionals who want to convey the intended message for greater success. Every week, we interview experts who address the challenges and best practices to deliver your message effectively. That might be one-to-one, one-to-few, or one-to-many. And perhaps the most important conversation, one-to-self. I'm your host, George Torok. My guest today is Aurora Winter. Here's 3 facts that I think you should know about her. 1, she's an award-winning, best-selling author of 6 books. Last time we talked about Turn Words into Wealth, and this time we're going to take a look into her fiction writing. We'll find out more about that and how to make money with that, how to get it going. Second fact about Aurora, she first learned how to reinvent herself and her life the hard way when her 33-year-old husband died suddenly, leaving her widowed with a 4-year-old son. And the third fact, she later learned how to master reinvention and pivoting and has launched 3 different businesses in different industries, which grew to 7 figures each, including film and TV production, yacht sales. Now that sounds like fun. And coach training. Aurora Winter, welcome back to Your Intended Message.
George, it's so great to be on the show with you, and I'm looking forward to helping the listeners learn about Kickstarter, decide if Kickstarter is for them. I'm going to share 10 lessons I learned about Kickstarter and why every entrepreneur, business owner, or author might want to consider Kickstarter.
Now, I've heard of Kickstarter, but I don't know exactly what it is or how it might help me. So let's start there.
The quick summary on Kickstarter is that it is a crowdfunding platform that is specifically oriented for supporting the creation of new products. So that would include books, but it also could include a backpack or a watch or a new kind of jacket or glasses or jewelry. So many creators have fun, or even a film. Many creators have funded their project on Kickstarter. Kickstarter is distinct from other crowdfunding platforms. It's not like GoFundMe. It's not, please, 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 I need money. It's more, I have this exciting idea. It's so wonderful. And I would really like to give you the opportunity exclusively to get this hot off the press before it's available to the general public. And usually you will also get something different and distinct from what is available for the general public. So people who like first editions, people who want signed editions, or they want something collectors, Kickstarter is really great for that. And one more thing I learned about Kickstarter, and I have a number of things to share, but one other thing that people might like to know is Kickstarter is your first stop. It doesn't take away from selling your product on Amazon or wherever you might sell it. But if you go to Kickstarter first, you offer that exclusive window and you don't have to ship the following day. So you can use the funds to create your movie or to finish, your design of the book cover. In my case, my book is already done, so that wasn't the case. But Kickstarter does give you the opportunity for a little window of time to finish your creative project, like my son did a video game on Kickstarter. So it's something that's, I think, really exciting and fun because you get to meet the creators.
And so people, when they provide funds, are they simply buying your product? Are they bidding on it? Is it a set price, or do they just say, here's what I'm willing to offer?
How it works is you can set a minimum amount that you need. So maybe you're making a movie. Maybe you need $100,000 to make the movie. So in that case, people would say, yes, I want to support you in your movie. Here's $5. Here's $15. here's $1,000. But unless you get to the minimum amount that you need to make the movie, if that was $100,000, then people are just pledging. And if it gets to $90,000 but doesn't reach 100, nobody's card is charged and you don't get any money and the project is over. You have to try again. In my case, I knew I'd already written the book, I'd already paid the editor, I'd already paid the cover designer. So I set a very low threshold because I didn't want people to think that the project might not happen. Does that answer that question?
Yeah. So people aren't at risk. They only pay if you reach your goal, and they decide up front, okay, there's a minimum of $5 or $15, and they can pay. So it's not like
they actually pledge. So it's more like a pledge, and then you get a reward. It's the flavor of it is a little bit different from just buying a product. It's more like you're involved in the launch and the creation of this new thing, this new book or whatever the case may be. And then you get reward. So for example, if people go to Magic Mystery and the Multiverse.com, they can see an example of what we're talking about. My Kickstarter for my brand new cozy fantasy series for young adults is live right now. So you can check this out as you're listening to George and I talk about it. So you'll see that there's various different pledge levels to give you like specific examples. So, for $9, you can get a special ebook, or for $25, you can get a special first edition paperback. For $35, you can get a special first edition digitally signed hardcover. And for a little bit more, you can get a personally signed hardcover. But there's other options too. You can get a poster, you can get a magnet, you can get canvas art add-ons. So we've created a whole world of characters. And I thought people might like to be stimulated by the visual images. And, maybe you want to name a character. So there's like extra fun things to do. And my Kickstarter, like most people's Kickstarters, you will not see these things available anywhere else ever. It's kind of like just between up until July 16th, I believe it is the last day. After that, it's done. There's no more opportunity to get, a signed first edition or a collector's grab bag of stuff or whatever the case may be. So people who like unique, precious items love Kickstarter.
Unique and precious. And the unique and precious sounds like in the package that you put together for them, the bonus.
That's right. Yeah, exactly right. And then the other cool thing is there's stretch goals with Kickstarter. So we're recording this in advance of the day that it's going to go. But right now, there are many levels of stretch goals in my Kickstarter, and I expect we will have already achieved some of them. So as the Kickstarter achieves more momentum, everybody who pledged gets something more. So for a clear example to understand this is the cost to an author of printing a book. If they just print one, is very high. But if they're printing thousands, they can reduce the cost of that print run. So they can pass on that savings by giving people a more deluxe premium quality hardcover. Or they can add extra bonuses. So in my case, if we get just a little extra, we're going to do, a group Zoom call, or you're going to be able to get the digital art from the first book, which is called Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse, or you'll get the digital art of the characters from the second book, which is The Secret Multiverse Academy. So it makes it fun and entertaining to share with your friends. Yeah. What stood out to me, I don't know if you want to talk more about the basics. I'd love to give people a little business information about why Kickstarter might be something they'd want to consider as well.
Let's do that.
Okay.
It sounds fascinating, but not clear to me yet.
Okay. Not clear. Well, let's see if we can make it clear. What part of it is not clear?
So what isn't clear? These are people who don't know you. Why would they trust you? What is it that attracts them to your product, and how did they find it?
Well, that's one of the things I learned about Kickstarter. Plan early. And I've been on a number of podcasts. So for example, I'm on your podcast right now. your intended message. And this is going to be released while my Kickstarter is live. So to say that people don't know me is not necessarily completely true. If they've listened to me for an hour on a podcast, they have a sense of knowing me. I have an email list, so I sent it out to my email list. Those people already know me. The first book in the series, Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse, won the Reader's Choice Award, Best Book for Teens. It won the American Fiction Award, Best Preteen Book, and it's won a half a dozen other book awards. So there's proof of concept. If people go to magicmysteryandthemultiverse.com, they can also read sample chapters for free. They can also watch a discourse review by independent reviewers talking about my book. They can see a review by Kirkus Reviews. So all of this builds credibility. And then, Kickstarter is a community. Things are done a certain way. And so people who like to get special things hot off the press before the general public, they like it. So for example, there are some things that wouldn't be available later, such as I can add your name to the dedication page. You can name a character. If we reach a certain threshold, I will add everybody's name to the acknowledgments at the end of the book. And those names will not change later. So everybody who reads The Secret Multiverse Academy 5 years from now can read your name, George Torak, was part of making this vision a reality. So people who like to support creators, people with a Silicon Valley mindset, people who like to collect things or have precious things or get extra things or develop a relationship with an author or creator really love Kickstarter. And those who don't, they can buy the plain Jane version of the book later on Amazon. That's fine too. But they won't be able to get, their name on the dedication page or name a character or be acknowledged in the acknowledgments or get the art bonuses, etc.
And which is more important to you at this point? Is it about creating excitement or is it this upfront money?
It's about creating excitement. I've already written the book. I've already paid for the editor. I've already paid for the cover designer. I don't need the money. I am going to launch it later, but the special edition is available on Kickstarter and your regular edition will be available later on Amazon and other places. And if people don't want to set up a Kickstarter account, they can get it later. That would be fine. So yes, it's a way to generate buzz. Hopefully the people who get the book and read it from getting it from Kickstarter in advance of the general public are then going to be part of the fan base who can leave reviews and generate buzz and get some momentum going.
And within Kickstarter itself, is there a place where there is community discussion?
Good question. I'm sure there is. I haven't really seen that. How I've participated in Kickstarters, I've backed about 20 other projects. So I've seen what other creators are up to and I've supported them. So I'm definitely part of the community in that sense. Here's some data that you may find interesting. I was listening to a number crunching expert. So we're talking about fantasy books. Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse is a fantasy for young adults. It's fun. It's playful. It's action, adventure. It's not a thriller. It's not a horror. It's not a picture book for a 6-year-old. It's not a spicy romance. It's something you could give to your kid or your grandkid and feel really great about it, or donate to a kid who's ill or in the hospital or otherwise needs a little encouragement. They're uplifting books. And to segue to the business equation of it, authors struggle to break even. I wrote a whole book about 7 different ways to make 7 figures with your book. It's called Turn Words into Wealth. And of those 7 ways, selling books is not one of those 7 ways. So I'm working on way number 8. So I listened to an expert doing the number crunchings to make 7 figures just as an author without any back end. So most authors make 85% of their money from the back end, from speaking, from consulting, from training, from workshops, from selling the same information in a VIP one-on-one or one-to-small group kind of a way. But people who make money from books alone, how many books do you need as a nonfiction author to make 7 figures? Well, you actually only need 1. But how many books, that's of all the authors who make 7 figures a year with their book, some of them do it with just 1. That might be the Atomic Habits book of the year. Typically, though, if you're writing fiction, the number of titles required to be a 7-figure a year author is about 8. So the tricky thing for authors and other creators and other businesses is the cost of acquiring a new customer, or in my case, a new reader. The cost of acquiring a new reader is between, on average, $12 to $20. These are industry statistics, not my personal data. So if you're selling a book for $15 and the cost of customer acquisition is $15, and you have to pay to print it and ship it, you are losing money, right? So one solution that authors have done is to have 8 books. Another solution that I'm playing with now is let's create a store with a bunch of other things that you can use. And an additional solution, and these can be additive, they don't have to be either or, is why not consider different ways of marketing your book and launch them in phases. And the first phase is Kickstarter. It doesn't mean you can't launch it on Amazon or Barnes and Noble or have your own Shopify store or sell it out of the back of your trunk like Wayne Dyer did as he traveled across the country. That's how he launched Your Erroneous Zones. But Kickstarter, the average transaction for a book on Kickstarter, the average pledge is $42. That's far exceeding the average cost of a book. So even if an author is investing $20 to get that first reader, if the average pledge is $42, they have a hope of breaking even on the Kickstarter, which means maybe they've covered their costs, or most of them, by the time the Kickstarter is done. And then when they launch, next you would launch your own Shopify store, your own direct sales store. Maybe those items are not as special as Kickstarter, or maybe it's the same item, but people can no longer get it personally signed, or they can no longer get their name added to the acknowledgements or the dedication page. So then you're already looking like you don't need so much to crack the nut of breaking even. And then you could launch later, in a later phase on Amazon or not. And then you could launch even later at the least profitable stage, which would be to be in Kindle Unlimited, where you get paid maybe $1 a book. So between $42 a book or a pledge, I want to be clear, sorry, the pledge is not just for the reward of a book. It would be maybe a hardcover book that's signed, plus a one-on-one phone call, plus maybe a poster. Like it's the add-ons that make it add up a little bit more. People are getting value for that. But if you run the numbers and you eliminate, or if you run the numbers and you add a phase at the beginning that could generate $42 per person, you change the whole economic landscape. And I'm excited about that for myself, but I'm also excited about it for authors, because I can't, like we said before we started recording, I can't think of anything more valuable than to give a person a love of reading. So we need to support authors because authors are producing wonderful material to read. And why I think reading is so important is that when people love reading, they end up learning so much. Then they get comfortable with words. Then they are comfortable writing. And then they're comfortable communicating. And then they have the ability to express their own intended message, right? Speaking at the front of the room. And an aspect of this, I believe, is visual art, because that stimulates another part of the senses, which is why we've added, the character images to magnets and posters and canvas art and hardbound notebooks. So people or the youth who are given these as gifts can be fully engaged with the story. It can become more dimensional to them. And my mission is really to spark that in everyone, but especially youth, to spark a love of reading.
Is it better to come to Kickstarter with a product and a plan, or with only an idea?
Oh, it's not good to come with only an idea. I think that's where a lot of people fail. I think you want to have proof of concept. You want to have your project 80% of the way done. So for example, each of my books, I send them out to alpha readers and beta readers. I spent months getting feedback. I spend months getting book reviews or endorsements. So I know the project is solid and I can reassure people of it with videos and sample chapters and this and that. I think where people make a mistake with Kickstarter is going with just an idea. You want to be almost ready to launch.
And the Kickstarter is a one-time launch for
It's a one-time. It's a one-time. And the interesting thing about it is it actually works best for a short sprint, a short window of time. So my Kickstarter is just for 17 days. So go to magicmysteryinthemultiverse.com before July 16th if you're interested. Otherwise, you'll miss out on some of the things. And then afterwards, you can do other, it's not like you only have 17 days and I'm never going to sell those books again. They'll be available in other formats on other platforms in phases.
What other products do well with Kickstarter?
That's been really interesting. So I've taken a dive into Kickstarter and I've just seen people have generated millions of dollars with what they're up to. But I think the key thing is not so much what product it is, but what stage of development it is. So many people's, if you can get 25 followers to your Kickstarter page before it launches, there's about an 80% success ratio. So I had almost 150 followers by the time it launched on July 1st. So that was looking good. And that basically signals to Kickstarter, oh, people like this project. Let's show it to a few more people. And then you can get the ball rolling. So projects that have worked well on Kickstarter include a nonfiction journal, for example, that generated $500,000 for John Lee Dumas. And that was very interesting because it was a beautiful hardcover leather or faux leather bound fill in the blank book, basically. But it generated so much money because some of his tiers were $10,000. And they included things you might consider including when we do your Kickstarter, George, because I can see it already. He had, spend a day with him, $10,000. Or be interviewed on his podcast, $10,000, or get the video training that goes with the workbook. I forget what that was, $500 or whatever. So quickly you can see how the average transaction moved up. Brandon Sanderson writes fantasy. He writes epic fantasy. And he has just made all authors go, what? And pay attention to Kickstarter. Because he wrote 4 fantasy books during COVID, and he did a Kickstarter that raised over $40 million. Over $40 million. But it was really quite a fun launch that he did. So it was called the Year of Sanderson, and you would get something every quarter. So every quarter you would get one of the books. You could have it as an ebook, you could have an audiobook, you could have it as a beautiful leather-bound or faux leather-bound collector's edition books. I don't think he signed these ones because I think his hand couldn't stand signing so many copies or something. And you'd also get, extra swag in special boxes once a quarter. So that $42 million really caught the eye of the author and publishing community. So we paid attention to that. Yeah. So Kickstarter it's fun to check out if you're a creative person or interested in creativity in any way. So you want to have the 10 lessons I've learned so far from doing a Kickstarter?
Please do. Oh,
okay. Lesson number 1, community engagement. So it's really important to become part of the Kickstarter community. One of the reasons projects fail if people don't connect. So, you build connections by investing in other projects. So I've invested in 20 some odd projects before doing the Kickstarter, which is part of the learning, but it's also part of the connection. So even if you go to magicmysteryinthemultiverse.com and you don't want to read a fantasy book and you don't know anybody who wants to read a fantasy book, you could still pledge $1 just to support the campaign. Then you will have backed one project and you're part of the Kickstarter community. 2, second thing, Kickstarters have a short promotional window for launch. Apparently, they're most effective with, a round of 17-day short promotional window. Some Kickstarters fail if they go on for too long. Third thing I learned is create an evergreen URL. So you're going to probably be promoting your Kickstarter, as I am, through emails or social media or by being on podcasts like I am today with George. You don't want to be continually giving out the Kickstarter URL because 1, it's too long, and 2, it's going to go away. So I created a URL that is evergreen and easy to share. As I mentioned, it's magicmysteryandthemultiverse.com. So after this Kickstarter is completed for the second book in this series, I will use that to offer the Kickstarter for the third book in the series, which will come out later this year. And when I don't have a Kickstarter live, then it will go to my own Shopify store, and people will be able to see what's there and get engaged in that community. Thing number 4, when you're planning to do a Kickstarter, start early. So I've been a guest expert on podcasts for the last few months, and I've requested them to be released during this short Kickstarter window. So that takes quite a few months to get that all organized. So start early. I've also had my son, Aurora Winter, who's a video game designer, creating amazing artwork for me, some of which is going on social media. Like my TikTok handle is aurorafantasybooks.com. You can check it out there. So start early and prepare the marketing assets so that during your sprint, you have these things available. Fifth thing I learned is Kickstarter is versatile. It's great for launching physical as well as digital products. It's just not good for offering services. Not usually, but you can add them as an add-on, such as John Lee Dumas. Spend a day with him for $10,000. Thing number 6 I've learned about Kickstarter, it's great for market testing. So how I've approached this first Kickstarter is as an experiment. I want to see what people like. I want to learn from that and make my next Kickstarter better. So if you approach it as an excellent platform to test market demand before you do a full-scale launch elsewhere, then that is a brilliant way. You can't really lose. And it also gives you a track record of success or proof that you can deliver something valuable. Seventh thing I learned about Kickstarter is the flexible fulfillment, which I mentioned a bit earlier. So there can be a delay between the end of the campaign and shipping, and you can use those extra couple of weeks, or in some cases a couple of months, but in my case, it'll be a couple of weeks to add the extra bonuses that you're going to create. So in my case, I'm using the extra couple of weeks to add people's names, for example, to have their name on the dedication page, or people who named a character. I need to change the name of the character, and I need to change that. The 8th thing I learned, I think I mentioned this already, marketing assets. Kickstarter forces you to get organized, but you can use those most marketing assets elsewhere. So a lot of people don't do a Kickstarter because they're like, oh, it's so much work. I have to create all these assets. But honestly, you need to create those assets anyway. Kickstarter just really forces you, encourages you with the deadline to get it done. So take advantage of that. The 9th thing I learned is that followers before you launch really matter. So as I mentioned, if you can bring 25 followers to your Kickstarter, and you can do that, goodness, just share with your friends and family for a few weeks. Apparently, Kickstarter will bring you about an equal number, or that is the word in the street. And if you can bring 25 followers to your Kickstarter, there's about a 77% chance of success, which is pretty good. Brought about just under 150 followers to the launch. So I'll let you know later how that went. And then success metrics. Well, I've already shared a couple of success metrics, but you can be reassured because a lot more than 50% of all businesses fail. So more than 50% of Kickstarters succeed if you do these couple of things that I've pointed out to you. And you can also use it as a sprint to really test your ideas and see what the market likes. So I'm still learning more things about Kickstarter. Maybe I'll share more things with you later, but those are a couple of things that stood out to me. What stands out to you, George, from that list of 10 things that I found helpful to learn about Kickstarter?
One, what impressed me is that one needs to have a good plan and a good follow through. And I like the concept of market testing.
Yes.
That in itself could be attractive enough to attract one to participate.
Exactly.
Cool. Very, very, very exciting. And there we have 10 steps to get involved with Kickstarter. And if nothing else, if Kickstarter is a new concept to you, let's go take a look and have a look at what Aurora's doing there at Magic Mystery and the Multiverse.
Magic Mystery and the Multiverse.com. The other thing that's quite fun about the Kickstarter is you really are best off to have a short video. So you can see the short video. It's about 2 minutes long if you jump on over to Kickstarter. And basically, all of I said is, who this Kickstarter is for and who it's not for. So, for example, with Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse, it is for people who like cozy fantasy for young adults, like Harry Potter, Percy Jackson, Shadow and Bone, Good Omen, Throne of Glass. The Kickstarter's for you if you like fun, fast-paced stories with elves and dwarves, a talking dog, vampires, and brand new, never-before-seen creatures. And it's for you if you want a special hardcover book or a first edition softcover book and exclusive items not available anywhere else ever. But it's basically not for you if you're looking for spicy romance or horror. I'm not Stephen King. I write very uplifting, encouraging, and inspiring books, and it's not a picture book. So, I think a short video really adds to the success of any Kickstarter, but it doesn't have to be super polished. You'll see mine is just me talking to camera. And then you want to answer some frequently asked questions in the video if you can, like what are the add-ons? In my case, it's beautiful, unique character art that was designed by my son based upon the characters in the Magic, Mystery, and the Multiverse series. And so they can see that art. It comes in magnets or hardcover journals because I'm about inspiring reading and writing. So like they need journals, right? And then posters or canvas art. And the other thing to keep in mind is people like to know when is it going to be delivered. You will just answer that so they'll know it's not coming tomorrow. You give yourself a month or whatever you need. So just as long as you're clear and you deliver what you promise, people will love it.
Fabulous. My guest today is Aurora Winter on a mission to inspire people to be better readers, better writers, and giving us an inside look at Kickstarter and where it can help you as a creator.
If you like what you heard, tell your friends and post your 5-star review on Apple Podcasts because that helps more listeners find us. Come back every week for more practical insights to help you deliver your intended message. I'm your host, George Torok.